At 6:26 p.m. on June 11, 1955, a race car left the track at Le Mans, and motorsport safety fell behind by decades in a single second. What failed wasn't one driver. What failed wasn't one car. What failed was the entire system. Track design, pit procedures, materials, emergency response, and the assumption that speed can be managed without engineering the environment around it. In the early 1950s, racing was transitioning from brave to fast. Circuits were still built around older speed limits. Many sections were essentially public roads with minimal separation from the crowd. By 1955, top speeds on the Mulsanne Straight and the approach to the pits were far beyond what the original layouts were designed to handle. Le Mans was the most prestigious endurance race on Earth, and it was packed. Enormous crowds pressed close to the racing surface, behind fencing and low earth banks that were never intended to stop a disintegrating race car. This is the key concept. When performance increases, the environment must be re-engineered. If you don't re-engineer the environment, performance becomes a weapon. The cars were masterpieces of their era, and that mattered, because the engineering details shaped the disaster. Mercedes arrived with the 300 SLR, a lightweight, space frame-based endurance weapon, a brazed steel tube chassis, an ultralight body made from Electron, a magnesium-based alloy chosen because weight is lap time. Magnesium alloys can ignite and burn intensely under the right conditions. That fact becomes important later, because when a magnesium fire starts, the wrong extinguishing method can make it worse. Meanwhile, Jaguar ran the D-Type with advanced braking for the time, disc brakes. That difference, how quickly one car can slow compared to another, also matters when the pit entry is basically a painted line with no dedicated deceleration lane. So here's the system setup. Cars gaining speed faster than tracks are redesigned. Braking performance varies wildly between competitors. Pit entry is not separated from the racing line. Spectators are close, with minimal impact protection. That's not a risk. That's an inevitability waiting for a trigger. Late in the second hour, the lead battle is intense. Approaching the pit straight, Jaguar driver Mike Hawthorne prepares to pit. He moves toward the right and brakes hard. Ahead and slightly offset is Lance Macklin in an Austin-Healey. Hawthorne's braking catches Macklin out. Macklin reacts by swerving left to avoid rear-ending the Jaguar. And then the closing speed arrives. Pierre Levesque, in the Mercedes 300 SLR, is coming through at high speed. Faster car, less warning, split-second geometry. Levesque strikes Macklin's car. The Austin-Healey's shape acts like a ramp. The Mercedes is launched into the air. Now notice the detail that turns a crash into a catastrophe. The pit straight had a slight bend and limited separation. That trajectory sends the airborne mass toward the spectator area. This is not bad luck. This is what happens when you allow high-speed traffic, braking zones, and mixed pit movement to overlap in the same physical corridor. When the Mercedes hits, it doesn't just stop. It breaks into components, and components behave differently. Heavy parts, engine block, suspension, radiator mass, carry momentum longer and travel farther. Light panels become fast shrapnel. The car strikes the embankment and structures in the spectator area, disintegrating violently. The most dangerous moment in high-speed accidents is not the first hit. It's the conversion of a single object into dozens of projectiles. And the circuit protections of 1955, fences, low barriers, earth banks, were not engineered as energy management systems. They were crowd control, no debris fencing, no catch fencing, no modern barrier systems, no runoff designed for airborne trajectories. The environment didn't just fail to protect, it was never designed to protect against 1955 speeds. After the impacts, fire erupts. The Mercedes 300 SLR's Electron bodywork, magnesium-based, can ignite under extreme heat and fragmentation conditions. Once burning, magnesium fires can intensify dramatically if handled incorrectly. Reports from the event describe rescue workers pouring water onto the blaze, which can worsen certain metal fires by increasing reaction intensity and spreading burning particles. This is the brutal engineering lesson. A material decision made for performance has consequences in failure modes. In a world without fire-resistant barriers, without standardized fire response protocols, and with spectators close enough to be exposed, the fire becomes part of the casualty chain. Le Mans 1955 wasn't just a crash scene, it was a mass casualty event in a sports venue not built to behave like one. Ambulance access was limited, medical response infrastructure wasn't scaled for catastrophic debris impacts, communication was fragmented, and the race continued, partly to avoid creating traffic gridlock that would block emergency vehicles and evacuations, and partly because the culture and procedures of the era didn't have a clear shutdown protocol for disasters of this magnitude. That is another systems failure. If your event has no engineered stop condition for catastrophe, you will improvise one in real time, under the worst possible stress. The death toll is often reported as 83 spectators plus the driver, and some sources state slightly different totals. Many modern summaries agree on more than 80, with at least 120 injured, and the exact number debated depending on counting methods and later fatalities. What mattered legally and culturally was the outcome of inquiry. Drivers and teams were not treated as the sole point of blame. The track layout and safety conditions were central to the conclusions. That aligns with engineering reality. When multiple independent weaknesses align, blaming one operator is a shortcut, not an explanation. After Le Mans 1955, racing could not continue as if nothing happened. Reforms accelerated, track and pit modifications, greater separation of spectators from high-speed zones, evolution of barrier concepts, improved fire response and materials awareness, long-term shifts towards safety-first event design. Mercedes withdrew from top-level racing for decades, an institutional response that reflects reputational risk, moral shock, and the recognition that the sport's safety ecosystem was not ready for the performance level the company could deliver. And the broader motorsport world learned the hard rule: you can't drive a skill your way out of a broken system. Le Mans 1955 is remembered as a tragedy, but technically, it is a case study in how disasters happen, not from one failure, from stacked failures, high-speed cars, unequal braking capability, a pit entry that intersects the racing line, crowds too close, barriers that manage people, not energy, materials optimized for weight, not fire behavior, emergency response not designed for the scenario. This wasn't just an accident, it was engineering reality arriving on schedule. This is why systems really fail.